for this very correct choice of having Professor Gatto, most productive scholar of our university, as one who contributes to COP29 series today. And we know COP29 series will take place in Baku in November. Regarding our other speakers, they will be mixed from praxis and from academia. Next time, we will have a speaker from Siemens Energy in Germany and in Luxembourg. So they'll present as the innovative technologies that they are proposing in terms of building CO2 reductions. So I see we have Mr. Peters also from Ruhr University of Bochum participating today. So I guess will be more. But let us start with inaugural lecture of Professor Gatto. You have regarding time confinements, I would say there are no time confinements, but knowing your efficiency, I know that you will be not as lengthy as me.
All right. Thank you very much to Professor Sadiqzada. It's a pleasure to be here, even though remotely. We have been cooperating with Professor Sadiqzada and other members of UNEC. Some of them are here in the last few years for the Center of Studies on Europe. It's a cooperation started already, how much is 7 years ago, formally, but it started before, I think. So hopefully we will meet very soon in person. And it's a great chance that COP21 is being planned to take place in Baku, such an interesting area for energy. So energy is what we are mostly concerned about, and especially energy sustainability. And as Professor Sadiqzada was saying, also efficiency. That's exactly one of the topics that will be discussed today. So thanks again. So I will start sharing the screen. Please let me know if you are unable to see the screen. So I prepare some slides. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good. So I was asked to talk about not only climate change and energy, but also considering the audience and the targets to keep it broad. So I will mostly discuss a recent paper I published with two Italian colleagues from University of Salerno in Italy on applied energy. It's an Elsevier title. So basically, here we are concerned about the contribution of environmental, energy, and business components, in particular regarding energy, on the total CO2 emissions. So, as you can understand, the topic is pivotal for understanding what are the policies, measures, strategies, and what management solutions can be found to curb pollution in general terms, and how to build a better environment, and also how to mitigate climate change, how to find solutions for resilience, adaptation, and to cope with vulnerability. So in this particular paper, we focused on some selected emerging markets from the Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific, it's a bit of a generic category. So we will sketch very soon the countries that were included in this study. Okay, I will try to make it a bit broader, considering there are also non-specialists and also non-scholars uh, in the audience. Okay, so basically, the presentation will be divided in four parts. One that will deal with research question, the model that we built, and the background. I promise it will be simple for those of you who are not in the field. The second part will be dealing with a little bit of data methods that were used in here. The third part will discuss results and also the discussion about the findings of this paper. And lastly, we will reach conclusions and policy implications. So the main research question for this paper, which was, by the way, I didn't mention, published in a special issue exactly on climate change adaptation and mitigation, was whether environmental, business, and energy efficiency components, okay, will affect, and how, to what extent, will affect CO2 emissions. We focused on a macro domestic level in this case. Also, we were concerned about the changes, possible changes, and which changes could be denoted according to the different economic development stage of the diverse countries we were analyzing. And to deal with this, we tried to construct a composite indicator. What is a composite indicator? Is an indicator containing other indicators, roughly. It's like a box in a box. Especially on selected environmental, energy, economic, and development variables. And again, we focused on Asia-Pacific emerging markets. So we didn't really deal with developing or fully developed countries. We wanted to understand the dynamics of middle low and especially middle high income countries as defined by the World Bank. So what did we make use of? We started to use a combination of data envelopment analysis and Tobit regression. What is this about? In a nutshell, we want to measure a benchmark and to see what is the distance from this benchmark. Why did we use this combination of methods? Firstly, is because these are particularly renowned methods and suggested suitable for measuring efficiency. So by definition, that's why we relied on this consolidated combination of methods in the literature. So we first want to assess energy efficiency and then to estimate the extent of business and environmental variables and the efficiency score related to CO2 emissions. At the last, we added a third method, which is the entropy method, that is very suitable for measuring efficiency, but also at the same time gauging different development stages. So to understand what is happening at different development stages. So we built a second level indicator, as in the literature, in composite indicators, focusing on national results, basically. So these are the countries we were dealing with, we have been dealing with. So we also, according to the available data, as you know, so this is
Professor Gatto, by the way, could you switch to the presentation mode so that we see the picture fully?
I did, but wait. I'm on presentation mode, but I don't know why you cannot see it. Wait, let me stop sharing and try again. Can you see it now? Hello? Hello?
Not at the moment.
Okay, let me try a different way. I will share the screen instead, maybe. Okay, let's try this way. Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. So as you can see, so you could not see the previous slides.
We saw only the title.
Only the title. Okay, whatever. So, okay, as you can see now, so we decided to select this variable, these countries. In particular, we divided the following. We selected the following countries. So from East Asia, because most of the country is either not available in terms of database, or because they are fully developed or underdeveloped countries, we selected mainland China and Mongolia, respectively upper middle income and lower middle income countries. In South Asia, we selected Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, all being lower middle income. From Southeast Asia, we selected Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. Most of them are lower middle income, with the exception of Thailand and Malaysia. Recently, Indonesia has passed to upper middle income, but from when we constructed the indicator and presented at a conference, Chinese Economic Association conference, last year, it was still lower middle income. From Oceania, we selected mostly, Oceania is made of tiny islands or not really populated islands. So, with exception of Australia and New Zealand, most of them are lower middle income. So,
by the way,
Fiji,
Professor Gatto, I just
yes,
have to mention something.
yeah,
This year, Azerbaijan has established a foundation to support island countries, small island countries, in their
yeah.
fight against climate change. And
Mhm.
just an indication so that you know that there is also some climate change and development assistance from
Mhm.
Azerbaijan in this context. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this. It's indeed very important, the role and the contribution of small island development states. Yeah, we have been studying these in other papers, by the way, so we can discuss this later on. And according to the different categorizations, sometimes international organizations also include in these groups countries which are not literally islands but are isolated or because they have very tiny population. And yes, their contribution and their role for climate change and the impact of climate change on these countries is tremendous. So yeah, that's definitely a relevant point, and I'm glad that Azerbaijan is putting forward notable efforts for coping with this. So yeah, I've also been working on a World Bank project on climate finance on this. So we may discuss this later if you want. So yeah, what we included: Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu, Micronesia, Samoa, and we considered two countries just for robustness analysis. One used preliminarily and then dropped, which was Singapore. Obviously, that's a fully developed country. And then Afghanistan that we kept for robustness analysis, which is unfortunately a low-income country. Unfortunately, we could not retrieve other data on countries from the area, although these are, as you can see from next table 2, these are mostly World Bank data or World Bank's partners data, so OECD, IA, and so on. So, which were the variables we used? 8 variables: percentage of firms having electric power outages, electric power consumption, renewables consumption, percentage of electricity from a generator, time to get electricity, research and development intensity, energy intensity, CO2 emission. Why did we select these variables? Because they could give a good overview of the phenomena we wanted to study. And at the same time, this is due to data availability. So this was the most conservative choice when it comes to data. This is simply a diagram depicting the exercise we run, the 3 methodologies, and this is a map of the entire area. But as you can see, we only selected some of the countries, not all of them. So each quite a vast area. Why did we select this? Because of its peculiar and diverse efforts in these regards, and because it's quite an interesting economic area to study nowadays. So in this study, as you can see, I didn't focus on Azerbaijan, but if you want, we can discuss the role of Azerbaijan regarding other components. Why not? Yes. But Azerbaijan is not part of that area, so unfortunately, that's not the case for this moment. Okay, so what did we do? We ran a cross-section analysis. We built a data set. We reached almost 200 observations. We observed very attentively data treatment and data management techniques, including collection, cleaning, harmonization, missing values, imputation, and so on. And we relied to the most consolidated theory on this regarding imputation of single values, single callback imputation, and so on. So after this, we run non-parametric economic techniques, and namely, as I mentioned before, we perform the data envelopment analysis and the Tobit regression to assess what was the national energy efficiency for each country and which were the underlying dynamics of, let's call it green entrepreneurship and green innovation, which is quite a vibrant and hot topic as well. And yes, so basically, once we built the benchmark for the data envelopment analysis, we wanted to estimate the decision-making unit's efficiency. For those who are not familiar with this, that's just the procedure to run the data envelopment analysis. So we estimate the frontier and the distance from this benchmark, okay? The efficiency scores are expressed between 0 and 1, and with the Tobit analysis, we forecast basically the relationship between energy efficiency indicators that we wanted to study. Therefore, as we mentioned before, we wanted to estimate a second level, a second type of estimations regarding the composite indicator, the compound index. Therefore, we used entropy index. And also in this case, we wanted to estimate efficiency scores. And this was a very good fit to estimate the heterogeneity of the efficiency in the different countries according to their level of development. So we can smoothly start sketching some results. First one that we get is that the percentage of renewables consumption, time to get electricity, and electricity consumption per capita do have a significant impact on energy efficiency. This is somehow intuitive. Then the variables we mentioned before regarding energy consumption have positive, the variables we mentioned before have positive or negative effects. Positive in the case of energy consumption, negative in the case of renewables and time to get electricity, on CO2 emission and also on energy intensity. This is more consolidated also as a result. Electric power outages, research and development intensity, and percentage of firms owning a generator are not significant as variables. So this also give these results give some indications regarding environmental innovation as well and energy innovation. Then particulate, because we also utilize PM2.5 as being used as backup output variable, because for data envelopment analysis, you have to use an input and an output variable. So now we can focus on the domestic level. Here the results are more controversial in some cases. Okay, first one. The best performer, one of the best performers is China. getting almost a perfect energy efficiency score. This may be related to the fact that the country is pushing its energy efficiency and its energy endeavors, also as part of the dual carbon goal. So the decarbonization will be gradually met. So it's being curbed and hopefully will be met in the next few decades. This passes also through energy efficiency as planned by the government. And this is part also of economic growth and development strategies overall. For instance, passing through initiatives touching, deeply changing not only China, but the whole area, Asia Pacific, but also the whole world, as the Belt and Road Initiative that we all know. And imagine that the initial plan of the BRI was meant to reach Italy, as for the times of Marco Polo, and then it was amended. Now we can also comment on other countries. For example, Vietnam, that is also doing well in terms of, with respect to other countries, obviously, in terms of economic growth and other parameters, also gets a very high result. Now, we can observe a group of countries which development or which stage of development is not that strong, not that high as Micronesia, Nepal, Papua New Guinea, Mongolia. They do get more modest. They do get, despite their more modest economic results, they do achieve similar results of energy efficiency. So not bad at all. Unsurprisingly, poorer countries as Afghanistan and Timor-Leste, which are plagued by a number of issues as well, not only by economic issues, socioeconomic, political issues, geopolitical stability, and so on, they are also achieving poor results. Conversely, some countries performing better in economic and often energy concerns do get poor results. This is the case for Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Myanmar, and Bangladesh. So this is also interesting and maybe a counterintuitive result. When it comes to entropy index, China confirms its leadership along with other countries such as Micronesia. But obviously, Micronesia, being a very tiny country, is less indicative of what we are studying. Therefore, we can comment on Vietnam, Mongolia, and Papua New Guinea because they do get, also in this case, outstanding performances, whereas Afghanistan and Timor-Leste fall behind again also regarding this parameter, and Sri Lanka, Philippines, Myanmar, Bangladesh also confirm their modest results with quite poor scores. Some of them are even lower than Afghanistan. So this should be quite significant. Here we have the whole countries with their energy efficiency scores. This is what we commented before regarding Tobit regression and the entropy index. This is a graph. I don't know if you can see the arrow moving from my side. So as you can see, when we comment on entropy and entropy index and research and development intensity, China is an outlier, obviously. Malaysia is also an interesting case with very strong research and development intensity, but let's say a middle high entropy index, whereas Micronesia, Nepal, and Papua New Guinea get the opposite results. So here we have more results that we commented already. So we can reach some conclusions and possibly some policy implication. So first of all, the index robustness has been tested at both stages. So Tobit analysis first, and then by means of entropy index, and also using other Asia Pacific countries with a different income level. What do we get? We can notice country clusters, as we discussed before. Some countries performing better, some countries performing poorly. And we also should remark that amidst the largest economies and countries, China stands in terms of environmental efficiency and research and development. And this is confirmed by its policies and efforts of the last few decades, unsurprisingly. Then, studying a little bit some of the variables and their significance, we may explain what happened as follows. First, energy consumption has a negative impact on CO2 generation. Why? Because of increased production and pollution in those countries. This makes sense, I think, no? Investments in renewable energy sources, conversely, have a positive impact on CO2 emissions. Why? Because they are considered to mitigate and even offset the role and the action of pollutants and fossil fuels. We can also derive some outcome from time to get electricity, which is quite an important variable for businesses, especially where electricity access is not ensured, such as some transitioning and emerging economies. So in this case, this variable has a positive impact on CO2 emissions, inducing CO2 reduction and energy efficiency. We can also sum up some results for Asia Pacific emerging markets. So some of the countries, most of them actually do validate our common knowledge, what we know about energy efficiency and income, above all China and Afghanistan, but we comment on also other countries. Whereas some other economies do show some quite peculiar performance, apparently counterintuitive, such as Mongolia and the Philippines. So I left also some key references for the studies. And yeah, before leaving, I would also stress on the fact that, okay, this is the one on the bottom left, is the conference we just had in Naples. And we discussed before I was starting my presentation. So just for this conference, we had 10 special issues and publication opportunities, including the two that you see at the bottom, one on applied energy and one on sustainable energy technologies and assessments. So even if you didn't participate, we may consider some papers on this if you are interested. We can cooperate also with other journals I serve as an editor for, including Ambio, Social Indicators Research, Energy Research, and Social Science, or others. And many other opportunities, I think, we can consider. Why not other conferences like the one I mentioned next year, or other ones in China or in Europe, and research collaboration. I'm always happy to cooperate research-wise. And why not to meet in Azerbaijan very soon? These are some of my contact details if you want to reach me. And that's it. I cannot hear you.
Thank you very much. I would say now, Andrea, because as you already indicated, we know each other for a very long time, and we had also, by the way, Professor Niftiev is also here. He also worked together in our very nice project related to public governance. Well, thank you very much for a very nice, but in the same time, tough topic, because methodologically it is more than sophisticated. But I know most of participants here, they try different methodologies, and this is why, of course, this is giving us impulse, even if me personally, I have never worked with data envelope analysis. This is, of course, motivating. I'll start right away with my question related to the methodology. It was always fascinating to me as physicists were speaking about entropy, and later mathematicians, especially Grisha Perelman, who solved Mendelian problems, developed his entropy related study. But now I'll be, let's say, more courageous and ask you, in the context of your work, entropy, what is the idea behind entropy? What does this mean? With simple indications, words. And the next question would be, do you have an intuition, just an intuition, because sometimes intuitions are very precise, about what would be the placement of a country like Azerbaijan? Thank you.
Okay, two interesting questions. Thank you. Very different. So first of all, yeah, to take it very simple, the entropy index is very successful in examining inequality, development, differences, and efficiency. So our idea was not only to corroborate our results by means of an uncertainty analysis, a sensitivity analysis, or a robustness test, as we did already for Tobit and for adding and dropping additional countries in a different development stage, but exactly to measure which were differences with regard to development stage. So it's basically a very used technique when it comes to composite indicators. Why? Because you want to test a different stage at different conditions, basically. So that's why we collected new interesting results after running the entropy index analysis. So that's basically the rationale of the entropy index as a method and how we used it. When it comes to Azerbaijan, okay, we didn't focus on that, but obviously Azerbaijan is another ascending country, so we should expect quite good results. Why do I say this? Also because in one of my first studies, which I published in the Journal of Cleaner Production, I created a composite indicator on energy vulnerability, and Azerbaijan was one of the top 10 countries in the world. So it was not energy vulnerable. Obviously, we took into consideration different dimensions related to sustainability. So not only economic. So we also took into account import, export, endowment of resources. We also considered environmental variables, social variables, governance variables. So, especially considering the large endowment of Azerbaijan, especially when it comes to fossil fuels, this may give strong insights. But obviously, this is just an hypothesis. So we may develop this in further research. Why not? Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. So the floor is open for questions. And I see the first, if I don't make mistake, Mr. Kazi Musa, you have a question, isn't it?
Actually, no. I was just listening the inside of the paper and the presentation.
So,
Thank you very much.
then other questions.
I have a question, if it's okay.
Yes.
Do you have any suggestions for the people who would like to apply qualitative methods to analyze such topics? Because I can observe a huge number of econometric and quantitative methods in the mainstream literature, but I don't know, maybe I'm making a mistake, but personally, I think qualitative approach should also make a difference in the ongoing trend of publications. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Niftiev. So I understood the first part of the question, but not the last part. So suggestions in terms of methodology, I guess, regarding composite indicators are the methods I used, but the last part was...
Qualitative methods. I mean, like, do you see any prospects in that direction?
Okay, yes. I mean, more than distinguishing between qualitative and quantitative, because often I also use mixed methods, or I try to diversify methods I use. More than this, of course, you can use qualitative methods, but more than this, I would like to stress on a very important fact. So most of indicators we have, especially composite indicators, but all metrics are not robust. So this is much more important than being quantitative or not, or being, another obsession is being objective instead of subjective. You can have a good, robust, solid metric, which is based on subjective rational. How? You have to follow several steps, several techniques, especially when it comes to composite indicators. Why? Because composite indicators, but in general terms, metrics, have the great advantage of providing very good insights, especially in terms of communication, policy making, decision making, and so on. But at the same time, you risk to simplify too much or to lead to wrong weighting, aggregation, and often this is true, especially if you do not run robustness tests. So you do not control for the solidity of your indicator. And at the same time, you only use linear methods without controlling them. So more than, of course, you can, so to sum up, yes, of course, you can use subjective methods. There is a plethora of subjective methods that can be used, or also less sophisticated quantitative methods. Yes, it's completely possible, as long as you ensure to have a solid indicator. So you have to follow, first of all the golden rules to produce a metric or a composite indicator. And after that, one of the last ones, but one of the most important ones, is to control it. So if you don't control it, or if you control it and your results are not solid, then you have a poor indicator. And unfortunately, I shall admit that this is the most frequent case, not only in academia, not really in academia, but from intergovernmental and non-governmental organizations. So if you check similar indexes developed by the World Bank, the United Nations, and so on, often they're not robust.
Thank you very much.
Bro.
I also want to indicate that in one of our next lectures will be with the participation of Dr. Niftiev. So you are invited. Yeah.
With pleasure.
Yes. So I would like also to ask a question, a rather general question related to interaction between China and Azerbaijan, and we know that the infrastructure projects under the vein of one belt, one road.
Yeah.
One
It's the
part,
same as Belt and Road Initiative. It's the
Yeah.
same. They changed the name. Yeah.
yes, it is crossing also partly over Azerbaijan. This is now a question to those who can answer the question, but first of all, to Professor Gatto. From your perspective, what is the major motivation in organizing these projects, transportation and energy projects in the first line in Azerbaijan? Is it first of all geopolitics, or is it more economic rational, or both? Your opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. I mean, you would have a very quick reply if you would come to China, and especially if you would have compared the same cities after, a few decades, a couple of decades. So infrastructure and procurement have completely changed China, within the country, but also outside. So it's definitely one of the key assets for Chinese development. Of course, both components that you mentioned are pivotal in these endeavors. Is also part of, establish kind of hegemony in the region, not only in the region, because Azerbaijan, it's far. I mean, it's not very near. But imagine again that the initial project of the Belt and Road Initiative, One Belt, One Road, call it as you prefer, initiative was to culminate in Italy. So that's so far. So obviously, this continues also in Africa, where there is so much room for investments. And energy is a key asset. So, I mean, when it comes to policy making, of course, there is a lot of strategy. So obviously, these have been detected as key assets for long-term development, quality development, and sustained growth. So yes, to reply to your question in a nutshell, yes, both of them, and also for other reasons, yes.
Well, further questions. Probably we also have here a very distinguished guest. This is Professor Kartal. I know him not directly, but I have heard about his very influential publication record. Probably you want to say something or to ask a question to Professor Gatto. Professor Kartal, have you got my question?
Hi dear Prof. Sorry for the my late response. There is a problem for my computer voice. Thank you for your asking me. Actually, currently I don't have a question for the Professor Gatto. He has done a very good job in his presentation. I congratulate him for this presentation. It is very helpful for us for your organizing our new studies as well. Maybe in the coming times we can the opportunity to contact with Prof. Gatto as well as you in studies in organizing.
With pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Well, one additional question from my side. Regarding now political changes in Europe, what we have seen um, um, elections in Europe have led to strengthening of right parties, but we are not dealing with politics. We are dealing with climate change, and at least in the context of country where I'm residing at the moment, you know, I have several affiliations, but at the moment I'm in Germany, and the right parties are at many instances um, not in line with the climate action. So there are some voices that there is too much done for climate. This is not in line with business interests. It is not in line with growth. It is in line with degrowth. So my question is, based on your publications where you analyze business, where you analyze profitability, but in the same time climate action, is it possible to reconcile growth and climate action, or do you see it as something what cannot be in line with each other?
Okay, thank you very much for this insightful question. So obviously you are recalling one of the most famous debates in academia, but not only in academia, as you said, also in politics and in our societies, regarding the trade-off between economic growth and environmental protection / degradation. Well, I will say that obviously depends what is our lens, because if it's true that populism is arising not only in the West, all over the world, it's also true that the European Union, regardless of their political party, is putting notable efforts to fight not only climate change, but also to boost energy and ecological resilience. And this was true even in the aftermath of COVID-19, the war in Ukraine with multi-layered energy crisis and many other, inflation in the past, also other types of crises that we experienced. And even, I would say, Germany is another good example of a country where even the Popular Party was not neglecting the importance of climate change. And I would say that the European Union, in general terms, is pushing this, regardless of the political party they pertain to. Obviously, one may expect from the Green Party to push more efforts, but this should be important considerations to be reached regardless of the political orientation, as you said. So this is not much about politics, but more about policy, I think. Even in Italy, we are reaching, maybe it's just a situational convenience, is due to EU funding, but also the current government that by declaration is not really interested in those affairs is at least trying to push some efforts, to put some efforts in these topics. Let's see also what will happen in France if you are following up. Let's see the elections in France. Let's see the election in the US, obviously. That will be very, very important because, as we know, we do have one candidate that basically neglects climate change. And that's quite an important presidency, the one of the US, no? It's the most important, probably. So let's see what will happen in the world. It's also significant what happened in Brazil in the last few years, for example. What is happening in China, obviously. China is always interesting. And in China, although, China is the first world polluter, when it comes to energy and climate change, there are many interesting and good policies which are being enforced, including circular economy. So usually this does not come to the news. But yeah, for instance, many industrial parks on circular economy are being developed. Many policies regarding energy efficiency, but also renewable energies. China is the country investing the most in the world in renewables at the moment, not only for electric vehicles, which are debatable, but also in other sources and fields. So yeah, let's see also how we'll end up. Hopefully at some point, the war in Ukraine and many other distresses. Obviously, this is part of multi-layered crisis.
So, this was my first moderation, and in aftermath, I understand that first I had to introduce our distinguished speaker. Nevertheless, I'll do it now. Why? I'll do it on the important issues, so that not only those who are in the group, I know Ms. Husseinova knows Professor Gatto very well, Mr. Niftiev the same, Ms. Melek Ismailova, but our guests from Germany, this is Ms. Gina Langhoff, this is Mr. Lino Meyer, Mr. Tim Peters, Ms. T. Wong. They do not know who was the speaker, by the way. He is not, we have seen there three flags, the US flag, Chinese flag, and Italian flag. But I have to mention that Professor Gatto has also worked for a long time at one of most reputed energy and climate research institutions at Aarhus University in Denmark. And also he worked at California State University, and this is why he has a very substantial view on research taking place, and in addition also consultancy activities for European institutions and international ones. So I have to say thank you to all the participants. This was our first meeting, and what makes me happy, it was not a meeting which we can say was national. It was international. We had 40% guests from Europe, and we had a really international speaker. So, and this presentation is the first, and foremost is that it gives us motivation to proceed. And what I have to mention the following. I have addressed the Ministry for Energy Resources, concretely Mr. Sultanov, and he assured me support in our activities in the context of COP29 in November. So let's see what happens. But if something happens, then it is attributed to all of you. So thank you very much, and let's see what comes in the next weeks and months. Thank you, Professor Gatto. Thank you, Mrs. Husseinova. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Andrea Gatto, for your interesting and productive speech. Thank you for.
Thank you very much to you. It was a pleasure.
Mhm.